This is Africa's Story Under Colonial Rule, Episode 23. When European powers claimed African territories, they saw resources, labor, and land, not people or societies. The continent became a source, a supplier, a factory feeding distant economies. Colonies were designed to supply the world, but rarely to serve themselves. At the heart of this system was dependence. Colonial administrations structured African economies to produce goods for export: rubber, cocoa, cotton, coffee, palm oil, minerals. Local needs, local markets, and local development were secondary or ignored entirely. Fields that once fed communities were turned into export plantations. Mines stripped minerals for shipment to Europe, leaving few benefits for local populations. Infrastructure reinforced this dependence. Railways ran from mines and plantations straight to ports. Roads connected resource-rich areas to administrative centers. Ports expanded to export wealth outward, but rarely imported knowledge, industry, or technology in return. Trade systems were no longer reciprocal. Europe set the prices. Europe controlled access. Europe dictated terms. Taxes forced Africans into participation. To pay cash taxes, people had to produce goods for export or work in mines, plantations, or colonial projects. Even those who resisted were eventually drawn into the system. African economies became single-purpose. Specialization in export crops and raw materials made regions vulnerable to market fluctuations. If global prices fell, communities starved. If demand surged, labor was stretched thin, and exploitation intensified. Colonial policies discouraged local industry. European manufactured goods flooded markets, undercutting African craftsmen and traders. Local innovation was stifled, ensuring that dependence persisted long after independence. This system of enforced dependence extended beyond economics. Political structures, education, and cultural norms were all designed to reinforce European control. Africa's wealth sustained foreign nations while the continent itself remained economically fragile and subordinate. Even when Africans produced enormous wealth, it rarely benefited the people who created it. Communities saw resources leave, labor extracted, and infrastructure built not for them, but for export. The long-term effects are still visible today. Many African nations entered independence with economies oriented outward, rather than inward. They inherited dependency on exports, on foreign markets, on global demand, shaping political, social, and economic realities for decades. And the question lingers. When a continent produces wealth for others, while its own people remain constrained and vulnerable, who truly benefits, and at what cost? In the next episode, we will examine the punishments, violence, and suppression of rebellion that enforced this system, showing how resistance was met with brutal efficiency.